Jeff Kubiak here for the Better Learning Podcast, and I am so excited to have an old friend and a current amazing human, Amy Alzina. Amy is the superintendent principal of the Cold Spring School District down in Santa Barbara County. She's also currently a board member for ACSA, the Association for California School Administrators, and she's the vice president of the Small School District Association in California, an amazing grassroots organization that really helps rural and small school districts get what they need and deserve. Amy, thanks for being here.
Thanks for being here. It's always great to connect with you.
Oh, totally. And the work you do is amazing. And I'd like to maybe start with a little bit of love for the SSDA, because I don't think a lot of our listeners on the Better Learning Podcast really know about it. Maybe you could share a little bit.
Well, the Small School Districts Association, SSDA, represents 60% of school districts in the state of California. So there are about 1,100 school districts, and 60% of them are considered small. When we say small, that's 2,500 students or less. Cold Spring is really small, right? So it varies in that space. And just really the great part about being in a small school district is the ability to pivot quickly, but the resources and the needs that we have are so different than a large school district. And so it's really making sure that our legislature really understands the needs of smalls and is really advocating for local control and making sure that there's equity in education.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for that. What do you think is something that students experience every day in a school building or campus that most adults overlook?
You know, every student wants to feel seen and a sense of belonging. And I feel like classroom teachers do a great job in trying to connect with their students. But sometimes we get in this tunnel vision of just my class and my group of students instead of everyone in the school is all of my students. And so sometimes we overlook that the power that we have as educators and staff to connect with students that maybe we don't normally connect with on a day-to-day basis, and making sure that every student has at least 3 advocates, and there are 3 people that they can go to throughout the day at any time of the day. And I think one of the joys of being the superintendent and principal, I get the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
And I'll try to rack my brain, like, is there someone I haven't connected with lately, and making sure that they feel connected. And that goes for teachers and students. But maybe that's something that we sometimes overlook, is that the influence that we have, not just with our students in our classroom, but all students.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that kind of leads to teaching, right? And if great teaching is, if not the most important, one of the most important variables, right, in education, what should a building do to elevate teacher practice?
Your environment can make a warm place for you want it to work and to be engaged, or you can make you not want to be engaged. And how you set up your desks, your table groups, indoor, outdoor learning. When we designed our new building, it was important for me to have barn doors that open to outside for both classrooms, so that there could be indoor, outdoor learning. We live in Santa Barbara, and so let's take advantage of the space that we have, and make that flexible. I know in my upper grade classrooms, teachers have couches in their classrooms. And so students can work on the couch. They can work at their desk. They can work on the floor. They also have rugs. So nobody wants to be confined to a desk where they're sitting all day, as I'm at my stand-up desk right now talking to you, right? And our kids are the same way. And so having the ability to choose and choice gives students a lot more connection, I think, to the engagement of whatever they're working on.
Yeah. So I think that's a great point. You're talking about a new project. So let's look at the viewpoint from taxpayers. So how do you, as the superintendent principal, help taxpayers understand the connection between the quality of the physical learning environment and the outcomes for the care about the children they have in the schools, perhaps?
Well, I think actions speak louder than words, right? And
Mhm.
so, for the taxpayers, they want to know that every dollar that they're investing in public education produces students that are college and career ready. And what does that look like? And so, Cold Spring, as you know, our test scores are literally off the charts, according to the
Yeah.
most recent New York Times, right? And so that's one measure. Another measure is our chronic attendance, absenteeism rate, right? And so we look at that and making sure, we're below 6% right now. I think we're at 5%. And so the state average, I think, is in the 20s,
Yes.
right? And literally our kids want to come to school. I have a waiting list for summer school. And so making sure, and then also I pay my teachers really well. A prime example of that is we're not in negotiations right now, but health and medical benefits went way up. And so I went to my board in closed session and I said, look, we don't need to give our teachers more money right now in the health and medical benefits piece of this, but they're going to have to pay another $250 out of pocket a month. That's a
Yeah.
lot. And I think we can swing it in our budget for not only next year, but make it ongoing. And so we committed to giving another $1,200 per employee towards benefits for next year. And that's just good. We're not in negotiations, like I said. That's just like good, I feel like, collective leadership from like me and the board of what is it that we can do so that we can take care of our people, so our people can take care of our kids.
Yeah, I think that, budget constraints always such an issue, right? And having been an educator in California, for a long time as well, it's just something we always have to have in the back of our mind. So how do you weigh those community expectations, those educational goals, and the budget constraints in the work that you're doing? So you gave us a great example of, helping teachers in a time that they weren't asking for, but you just did the right thing. So what about all those other expectations and things?
Well, people like to invest in success, right? And so we wouldn't be able to have a robust specialist program. What I say by that, music, art, PE,
Yeah.
garden, if it wasn't for the donations that we get from our parents. So we fundraise and we get about $200,000 to $250,000 a year that our parents donate to help offset those costs. So that community support is essential. When it came to things like we needed new picnic tables, and those were a paddle raise for our foundation fundraiser. I said, well, let's put a plaque that you donated. People like their names on things, right? So there's a lot of plaques everywhere, right? And to help offset costs for things. The community, like you said, wants to make sure that we're delivering a quality product, which we do. And I think because we have over time, there's trust, right? And Stephen Covey talks about the speed of trust and transparency as everything. And our strategic plan has not changed much over the year, because why break something that is not broken, right? And so let's just continue with the work that we're doing at Cold Spring, and just continue to make sure that everybody has a personalized learning experience. And so it isn't one size fits all approach to education. What you get and what you get are all different according to your unique needs and talents.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
continuing on with the student focus. So you got students. What advice would you give someone who's thinking about a career in school finance or business management? So maybe, they're kind of looking to do the CBO thing or something that's in that realm.
If people are looking at that space, there is a huge need. My current CBO that I just hired, who's phenomenal, Maureen Fitzgerald, I went out when I needed to hire her, and I had two applicants, I would say, that were qualified for the position, right? And so there is a need, and AXA has an academy that people can, attend, right? CASBO does as well. And that people can attend so you can still be working and work on getting certified to be a school CBO. But if somebody, like I said, is interested in that space and they're worried about, oh, if I do all this work, am I going to get hired? You will.
Do you see that being as a needed niche in like a CTE program going from high school to post?
I mean, that's a great creative thought, Jeff, is that, yeah, you create a CTE pathway that goes into school finance, and that would be really fun to see.
When we work with schools at K-12, it's not just about furniture or design. It's about impact. Our radically student-centered approach puts students at the center of every decision. From that first conversation to the final walkthrough, we're focused on creating spaces that actually work for the kids, the teachers, and the community. So if you're looking to do more than just check a box on your next project, let's talk. Visit K12.com. That's KAY-TWELVE.com and see how we're helping schools transform learning one student at a time. Because at K-12, it's not just about projects and furniture, it's about purpose.
You obviously traveled down the road of design for your new building. So what do you see as trends in school design now that you've been through it? And maybe what would you say that's being overused or misunderstood in school design?
Well, pre-COVID, the hot trend was, let's get away from individual desks to cooperative groups. Mm-hmm. And people were, there was a lot of professional training, group work, students sitting around in tables, not in desks. Then COVID happened and everybody had to sit 6 feet apart. And then everyone went back to like sitting in rows and sitting in desks. It was pretty comical. And then I think what we see now is probably a combination of the two. And I think that's healthy. I think there's times when students need to work independently, like I do, we do as an adults, and give me my space. And then there's times when students need to work in cooperative groups. And so, in our classrooms, you'll see individual desks for those times when students just need to I just need to get my work done, interrupted. But then you'll also see, like I just shared earlier, you'll see table groups, you'll see couches, you'll see wobble seats, right? You'll see all different types of ways that students can feel comfortable in their learning environment, according to their projects, and even working outside. I think taking advantage of our outside learning spaces was great. COVID did that for us. It was like, okay, you don't have to sit, 6 feet apart if you're outside, or wear a mask. And so more and more people, I think, are taking advantage of the learning spaces that they have outside, and being mindful of, when they do build a building, let's build an outside courtyard that's adjacent to that building as well, so students can work in that space.
Yeah. Keeping your SSDA hat on, what would you say are the emerging trends in school funding or financing that are either the most exciting or the most concerning right now?
Well, the governors may revise, right? The budget that's coming out right now. A lot's happening right now, but what we're seeing is, the expanded learning opportunity grant funds. They came out a couple of years ago, and we thought, are these just going to be 1-year funds to support kids after school? Are they going to be ongoing? It looks like they are now ongoing. For small school districts, our initial pot of funding was $50,000, and now we have $100,000 as a base grant, which is huge, right? And so making sure that we have those funds so that we can have after school programs, that we can have summer school. I think the part that still frustrates me a little bit is that 9-hour day fix that you have to have to that. And what I have told my board is that this doesn't work for our population. And we know that our academic program is off the charts, and what we're doing does work. So we're going to take an audit finding, which we do every year, and I have to give back about 10% of those funds to the state because I don't fit their bubble.
Right.
And, but it is also a creative workaround. So what I see a lot of small school districts do, unfortunately, they're like, well, we can't meet the 9-hour day, so we're not going to take the funds. So they don't get the money at all, not realizing you can take the money, but you can have an audit finding and you're going to give some back. Right. Yeah. And so I've shared that concern with, Department of Finance and, making sure that there's flexibility within that. And hopefully that will change down the road. Other funding that's coming down, we're seeing a discretionary block grant that's coming, which could give districts a lot more freedom. It's like, I think it's $946 per student to spend on programs that they need, right? Yeah. And so it's discretionary. So I think that is great. The legislation that does make me a little bit nervous is the 14-week pregnancy leave. And hey, I'm all for pregnancy leave, but the financial constraint on that is paying for a long-term substitute. And then also what we see in public education is you can only have the same long-term sub for 30 days. Right. And so that's just like 4 to 5 weeks, right? And so now I'm going to have a revolving door of substitutes for those kids, which is not good for kids, as we know, especially if you're teaching first grade. That's the foundation for reading. So now they've had, maybe 4 teachers that don't know how to teach reading, because I've taught first grade. And let me just tell you, I did not know how to teach for reading, and I had to go back and I had to learn the foundation. There's 44 sounds. I thought there was 26 sounds, right? Like, okay, what are the other sounds? And then my argument is with that 14-week pregnancy leave is it's not good for kids, because now I'm going to have a cohort of students that I'm going to have to spend a ton of money for intervention for, right? Because they have lost instruction. And so I think there's things that we can do to make win-win situations. And one of them is to extend the long-term sub leave, right? Like, so instead of it being 30 days, right, for the duration, the 14 weeks, make it for the duration while they're out on maternity leave. So it can be same teacher. So those are the ones that are like fresh in my mind right now that I'm thinking about and ones to watch.
Yeah, it's interesting. You bring up that, like, that's so great. The good of the teacher, the 14-week sub, right, for pregnancy leave. But then, wait, we're not thinking about the students at the same time. And that's where our work revolves around. And so that to me, that should be an easy fix. Okay, let's do a 6-month long-term, because that's how I started out. I was a long-term sub and substitute teacher. And that gives the stability for what the kids need. Yeah. So Amy, we have a phrase with K-12. It's called radically student-centered. And that's everything that we do revolves around, right? And on the Better Learning podcast, we like to ask our wonderful guests, what does that mean to you? Radically student-centered, and kind of what pops up for you when you hear that phrase?
What pops up in my head is doing whatever it takes to make sure everyone feels seen and a sense of belonging and connected, not in school, but just in life. And so it's showing up to their events outside of school and inside of school.
I love that. As we wrap up here, what's one thing, Amy, that gives you hope about our future of education?
Being on conversations like this with you, Jeff, and that there are people that just really care and just want to learn and grow and best practices. And you and I both have that appetite for learning and growing, and it's exciting. I think the space, with some people are scared about artificial intelligence, AI. But what makes me excited about that is a student's learning is no longer dependent upon their area code or, their zip code, where they live. Now everyone can have an A+ education with adaptive learning. Now, not everyone learns that way, right? But it now can give kids actually resources to great tutors, and if used well, right? And then I'm just being on the positive side of it and creative. And I think it also frees up time for teachers in the classroom, to work one-on-one with students and to give them the extra support that they need. And especially those kids that need that relationship component like we all do. So I'm just excited about where we're going and where the future is going of education, and all the people that are excited along the way that are just supporting, and we're learning and growing together in this new space.
Yeah, totally. Thank you, Amy. For those of you first-time listeners, share the podcast if you liked it, and follow Amy Alzina. She's all over social, and she does amazing work at the Cold Spring School District. We thank you so much for your time today, my friend. It was great to see you.
Oh, it's great to see you too. Thanks, Jeff.
The Better Learning Podcast is produced by Matt Rogers and edited by Callie Jones. The views and opinions shared on this podcast are those of the individual speaking and do not necessarily represent the perspectives of their affiliated companies, organizations, or associations.